What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Tuesday Live here on St. Thomas Beers. My name is Sam Nash Green. I am at Scribe of Spirits, and we're doing it from home today because usually my ride gives me a ride back from my recording studio when she's done at work, but she was done early today, so I ran to the studio, grabbed the wines that I've had chilling in the fridge since last night, and yes, I said the wines. If you're paying attention, today we're doing the House of Lustau, Bodegas Lustau, probably the most famous sherry wine bodega on the planet, and probably my favorite. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little biased. I do really love Lustau. And we're joined by Bodegas Lustau's national brand ambassador and also lead CSWS educator, certified sherry wine specialist educator, Mr. Lucas Paya. Lucas, hello, welcome. Glad to have you. Thanks for making the time to join us.
Great to have. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great to be here, and I look forward to the program.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do for Bodegas Lustau before we dive into the wines?
So, about 5 years ago now, we started a certification program that teaches people across the U.S. about the beauty of the sherry region. And I'm saying the region, and this is all supported by one single winery. But we thought that in order to increase the awareness and the interest in the category, we had to educate people. And sherry is complicated enough to need a good program to back it up and teach folks about all the complicated methods and styles and the tremendous diversity that the region puts out. So we have a program now that is about 3 hours. We either do it online or we come to your city if you are in one of the major urban areas in the US. And we partner with different wine schools. So we go there, and then you can register for the class. It's going to be a 2-hour theory plus now an hour for exam. And then if you pass, you're gonna get a certificate that is signed by the director of the Consejo Regulador. So it's a true piece of
now,
expertise you're acquiring here.
Real quick, you hear the Consejo Regulador. When people usually talk about the Consejo Regulador, they're talking about the Consejo Regulador de Tequila, the Mexican, certification body for tequila. So what is the Consejo Regulador you're talking about? Because obviously it's not going to be the Consejo Regulador de Tequila. It's the Consejo Regulador Jerez, yes?
Yeah, it's just another way to say regulatory body, or some kind of like governmental entity that is going to be usually making sure that the rules are all in place, that all the companies or producers in this case that are under the geographical area following the rules. The Consejo Regulador is any entity that is behind denomination of origin. It could be in Europe, it could be in the US, it could be typically in Europe. They're a little like tighter as far as the regulations, but it's pretty much anywhere in the world where some product is produced based on their origin and their own historic profile. And Jerez is not an exception. So it's actually one of the oldest in Europe and one of the oldest in Spain from 1935. So since then, they've been making sure that the wines are done by the book, according to what they, as a group, decided to make the wines upon. So the Consejo Regulador de Jerez is one of many other Consejo Reguladores that you can find in Mexico, rest of Europe, even the the more advanced AVAs in America, in the US, are using similar bodies.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. I obviously, having taken the CSWS course myself, um, I I'm familiar with the CRJ, for lack of a better term, and then the CRT,
Yeah.
Consejo Regulador de Jerez, Consejo Regulador de Tequila. But some people watching this may or may not be aware that the aim of this show is to reach a broad, wide audience. Um, so on that note, can you talk to us a little bit about what makes sherry sherry? Now, obviously, people know sherry cask whiskey, or occasionally, a sherry cask tequila, or even a sherry cask rum. But most people haven't actually had sherry.
That's kind of funny, don't you think? I mean, you know a wine that is, or cask that is used to finish some spirit, but then you don't know the actual wine
Yeah,
that is supposed to be even more exciting before it's used. It's decided that it's going to be
I mean, I love sherry. I will happily go into a bar and order a glass of sherry neat.
right. No, and I love a single scotch, single malt scotch, finished in sherry cask. Don't get me wrong, but so sometimes it's people know before that that spirit. They know that spirit before they know the actual wine that was to
Yeah.
used to finish that spirit. Whether this is again a rum or
Now,
whiskey
the most
or
obvious and most well-known example, I think, bearing the name of Bodegas Lustau, is the Redbreast Lustau
right,
edition.
Irish. Yeah, yeah. So well, the cask are definitely a huge part of the sherry production, and that's why these barrels they have historically been used to, like brighten up, if you will, sexy up some other beverages like spirits and stuff. But if the casks were not as fine and really such a beautiful tool to provide those extra flavors, that would not be the case. So we start with a region that utilizes wood at a measured degree for a long time, making sure that those containers are just acquiring all the flavor, the all the profile, usually really well seasoned to be able to age the finest wines. And when those wines were sent to, let's say, UK or other markets in cask, talking about centuries ago, then those casks naturally, organically, would end up in other industries like the
Yeah.
whiskey one, and they said, man, this wood is this pure gold. We're gonna use it, and they found out that really improves some of those spirits, but it's the way sherry is aged that kind of like provides this material, which is this wood, this cask, for future use. Why is that? Because this is one of the few wines in the world that really is aged for a long time on the facilities in the winery. Um, Bordeaux would be the other opposite example, right? They put them in new oak for maybe 18 months or so, and they expedite it quickly, and you buy them and then you age them in your own cellar before they're ready to be enjoyed. But sherry is kind of the opposite. They keep the wine in the winery for maybe 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and it's only once the wine is ready, based on according to their style, their profile, that then they bottle them and they ship them out to you, and then you can enjoy them right away. Or some of them, obviously, can be farther cellar lay down or
Yeah.
develop in bottle for more maturation, enjoyment down the road. But this is one of the regions that they don't kind of like cut any corners as far as like making sure that the wine is ready, is at the optimum, like tasting profile or status for you to enjoy. And if that takes 5, 10, 15, 20 or more years, they'll do it. They just want to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for.
Now, speaking of tasting, I have some 4 delicious sherry wines right here behind me. What order should we go in? We have the Oloroso, the Manzanilla, the Monteiro de Puerto, and the Fino Jarana.
Probably the manzanilla first.
Manzanilla first.
Yeah. Then we'll do the fino jarana, then the montillado, and finally the oloroso.
Now, normally, as you know, I do whiskey and spirits, so I use Glencairn, but I made sure to grab wine glasses for today.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is the other thing. I mean, people talk about wine, like table wines. I don't know, like Sauvignon Blanc or Chardonnay or Riesling, and then Cabernet, Merlot, and Pinot Noir, and they talk about sherry as if sherry were something different. No, these are wines. The only difference here is that these are under the 45 wine category. Because
yes, so can you talk about that?
Yeah, these wines, and they're all historic, and Port and Madeira and Marsala and other famous regions from Europe are also falling under this category. This is an antique and an old style, old school way of producing wine, where at some point the wine receives extra alcohol. And that's why they're known as fortified. But at the end of the day, besides that 2, 3, or 4, 5% extra alcohol ABV, the rest is all wine, as any other wine. So this should be enjoyed out of a wine glass, maybe out of a decanter, and with your favorite foods, because wine is ultimately, we think, meant to be enjoyed with your favorite cuisines, throughout the world. So that being said, wine glass. And the thing with Jerez is that there's such diversity that and we're missing a lot of styles here, and we have 4 bottles, so we could have another 10 or 15.
I actually looked to get some more, but they only had more Fino, more Amontillado, more Pedro Jimenez.
Well, we don't have any Pedro Jimenez here today.
You're right. That's the one I'm missing. I did look at one, and I didn't have a chance to go get it. I also almost picked up a Vermouth Lustau.
Yeah, and then we have Vermouth. So, but my point is that if you try the Manzanilla and then you try a Pedro Jimenez, you're gonna realize those wines are like the opposite ends of any wine spectrum, because the Manzanilla could
There's my camera.
Yeah, I mean,
Manzanilla over here on the drier side, the Pedro Jimenez over here on the sweeter side.
Exactly. So we have on one end possibly the driest wine in the world, or one of them, maybe top 3, and on the other end, the Pedro Jimenez would be possibly the sweetest wine in the world. Maybe some Tokaji, maybe a little bit sweeter, but we're talking about 500 grams of sugar per liter. I mean, this is really something special, and very dark and syrupy and all that stuff. So you compare Manzanilla with Pedro Jimenez, and wow. And then everything in between that you can find, maybe another 8, 10 or more styles. So that diversity, that tremendous amount of options, is one of the most important things about the region, the Jerez region. Because let me say, port, we love port. You have Tony, you have more like Ruby or vintage. Some of them are fruitier, some of them are a little bit more oxidized or oxidative. But at the end of the day, port is going to be a red wine, sweet, maybe 80, 120 grams per liter. And that's what port is. And it's great with at certain times of the day, on certain occasions. But port is pretty straightforward. Some of them
I
are white.
recently
There is even some rosé port these days, but port is what we have in mind.
I recently had a Pedro Jimenez that was so dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got to. I want to just show you this actually. Oops, wrong one. That is the menu for the bar product that we have. Let me close that actually. That
Correct.
is
It's
so
black.
dark.
It's opaque. It's like motor oil. And
it was the Alfear Pedro Jimenez.
Yeah, beautiful.
I love this, by the way, seeing a sherry menu at a bar. I love seeing this. They had Fino, Palo Cortado, Oloroso, Los Arcos, Amontillado, and the East India Solera.
Yeah, and all Lustau. But the Alvear, believe it or not, that's not sherry.
What is it then?
Alvear is from a neighborhood or a neighbor appellation or region known as Montilla Moriles. So they produce wine in very similar styles, but technically,
I was going to say similar style, but it's not in the,
it's not within the geographical area.
Yeah.
So, but Pedro Ximenez from Montilla Moriles are very similar to Pedro Ximenez from Jerez. So it would serve us as an example. So again, you go back to that list, and you have the Pedro Ximenez, and you have the Fino, the Manzanilla, and those wines have nothing to do with one another.
Yeah,
a Manzanilla, you tell me, but you feel like oysters or
briny,
shellfish,
savory food.
Yeah, savory, salty, appetizers, sushi,
salad. No, appetizers. This would go nice with like a Caesar salad.
Yeah. Like
it would cut through some of the creaminess of the dressing.
Even any vinegar, anything like that, seaweed. But Pedro Ximenez, you're gonna have that with oysters. I mean, you might, but it's gonna be a while. I think you're better off with maybe blue cheese or foie gras or desserts or chocolate or ice creams. So one wine is going to be great with the beginning of your culinary experience.
And another one will be better for the end.
And the other one will be better for the very end, even with your cigar. I mean, Pedro Ximenez and cigars. I don't know if you smoke. I don't smoke, but
I don't personally.
I did in the past. Pedro Ximenez and cigars are amazing. But then we have these other 8, 10, 15 other options in between that can drive us from the oysters all the way down to the cigars. And we can use only sherry, for the entire menu. And when I'm talking about a 10-course menu, 15-course menu, a 20-course menu, and we don't need anything else than Jerez, because there's such diversity that we can, for sure, have
even between bodegas.
And then you mix in all the different bodegas, and then it's endless. Because what un amontillado is to Lustau, or according to Lustau's standards, could differ, a little bit from what another winery considers a textbook Amontillado should taste like.
Absolutely.
So that gives you extra complexity. So again, I always say the same. Whatever you're thinking of, like cooking throughout the week, over the weekend, all your favorite dishes, foods, ingredients, we can find a Jerez to go with that, a sherry.
So after the last time I saw you, which I believe was the CSWS course in Costa Mesa a couple of years back, I think that was the last time I saw you.
Yeah.
I went on a sherry kick for a little while, and I walk into one of my favorite bars, or rather, my favorite bar. The owner loves to remind me that I've called it my favorite bar, period. And it is. I love that place dearly and cannot wait to go visit again soon. I haven't been back recently, even though they're open. I was sitting at the bar, and I ordered a French dip sandwich. And along with that, I'm like, you know what? let me have a glass of sherry. They're like, we have Fino. I'm like, that's fine. Like, really? Fino with French? I'm like, yeah. Even though, someone was telling me, Fino's typically more shellfish or seafood. I'm like, no, this tastes great.
Yeah, and
I very much enjoyed it.
if you want, we can talk about the manzanilla you have in the glass. But
Please, I would love us to.
so
We're like going around in circles, which I love. It's a great conversation, and
no,
this is very educational. It's a refresher for me as well.
I think we cover the diversity of the region, right? But let's talk more about why that diversity. And the first two wines, the Fino Manzanilla, are going to be produced in a very similar way. We consider them biological wines, and those are the wines that are magically aged under the layer of floor yeast, that yeast that shortly after the wines are put in cask or the fermentation process is finished, they're going to see a veil, a film of local yeast.
You have on your computer images you can share with us to look at?
I will have to find. Yeah, I can try to pull. Yeah, let me. I have a presentation here, but basically, so the wines are aged in casks, every other wine in the region. But the thing is that the wines, in this case, because of their level of alcohol they receive. How do I share here?
Bottom of the screen.
Okay, got it.
It's a new platform for a lot of people.
Yeah, I never used it before.
I very much like it. It lets me live stream to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all at the same time.
So
the CSWS course.
Yeah, so we don't have to talk about history. It's been 3,000 years. So then 1935 is when the regulatory body, the Consejo Regulador, was finally put in place. This is the region.
Yes, actually, it was really glad you brought this up. I wanted to talk about the region.
Yeah, and then
the little cherry triangle, San Lucar de Barrameda, Jerez de la Frontera, and El Puerto de Santa Maria.
Exactly. So the manzanilla comes from here,
from San Lucar de Barrameda,
and your second wine, Fino Jarana, comes from here. And then your third wine, which is the Amontillado del Puerto, comes from here. And then Oloroso de Nuño, which is your fourth wine, is from Jerez de la Frontera again. But we have three wines that have been aged in each of the different aging locations, because these three towns is where the wines need to be aged. You can produce wines from grapes from all over the region, and you can see where the region is in southern Spain, very close to the African continent, actually. But pretty extreme latitude for wine production. So each city is going to have certain influence that will impact the wine and shape the final taste. Look at the vineyards here. Huh? So beautiful. Yeah. So Jerez Superior is like the Grand Cru, where all the vineyards have been sitting for thousands of years. And this is the most important part. It's where all the three cities are laying. So and then we have the actual vineyards, the pagos. And as I was saying, the three different towns are going to be sharing or enjoying slightly different temperature or rainfall, humidity levels, and such.
The winds.
And then the wind.
Poniente and Farniente?
Levante and Poniente, one from the
Levante and Poniente.
One from the interior. pretty much opposite. One is humid and cool. The other one is hot and dry. The
So
soil,
Levante is the hot and dry, right?
yes, it funnels in from the Sahara Desert,
So from Sahara, that's the interior one, yes?
which is coming up from Africa, and then it goes like that in a loop, and it
Gotcha.
just turns west, and then it blows through the region. And if you have a lot of Levante, you're gonna have a drop in humidity and temperature raising. So depending on the winds on that, you may have to do certain things in the winery to keep the conditions. The soils are very important. This albariza, maintaining the moist that is absolutely necessary for the vines through the dry growing season. This is Mediterranean climate, and it's low latitude, pretty warm, so the vines need some water during the summer months, and the albariza provides that. These are the three grapes. Today we're tasting all Palomino wines, all of them. The four are from this grape, but then Moscatel and Pedro Ximénez will produce sweet wines. Some techniques that they use, the actual, the way they manage the canopy and train the vines, harvest, and then producing the wines. So the first two wines that we're tasting today are one.
So
Fino,
Mosto Yema, or the first press, is the Fino
correct,
Manzanilla,
similar
and then
to
the
champagne.
Amontillado.
Sam, similar to champagne when we have like the cuvée, versus the Thai, that is the finest juice to produce the finest champagnes, something like that. So here we have a full fermentation process, and then once we obtain the base wines, which are known as Mosto here, if we are to continue to produce a Fino, which are going to be the pale and light and finest wines, those wines that are fully fermented and ready to go, somewhere around 12% alcohol percentage, they're going to be receiving wine to go somewhere around 15%, whereas the darker wines, probably from a second press or different vineyard sites, fuller profile, those wines are going to receive 17%. And that's the difference between the Finos and Manzanillas and the Oloroso. So wines.
So how does Sorry, please go ahead, Lucas.
No, wines 1 and 2 and wine 4. Wines 1 and 2 are going to be just receiving alcohol to around 15%. Wine number 4 is going to be 45 all the way to 17%. And that's important because that amount of alcohol, and this is the grape spirit that they use, you see high proof, Romayer.
So this is also being recorded audio, so people might not be able to see this actual thing, by the way.
Oh, they won't see the slides?
Some people will, but it's also going to be available on Spotify.
Okay. All right. Well,
my question was, how does the fortification actually kind of happen?
Once the ferment is complete, is when the wines will receive the alcohol.
The Solera system.
The extra alcohol. And then the thing is that if you only add alcohol to about 15%, you are creating a wine that is the ideal type of, a combination of wine and alcohol to for the floor yeast to thrive. So these Finos and Manzanillas at only 15% and with very low phenolic content and tannin, they're going to be showing, receiving that, seeing that layer of yeast covering the surface of the wines after a few days. So these Finos and Manzanillas, I'm going back to the wine in your glass, are
actually just poured the Fino, so perfect.
Aged in cask for, in this case, 5 years. And they're going to spend all those 5 years under that layer of yeast. So you see here, this is the barrel that is not filled all the way. Typically, only up to 500 liters as opposed to 600-liter capacity cask.
You
So
have that literal layer of yeast resting on top of the wine. I can see it. Yeah.
for 5 years. So imagine the amount of transformation, if you will, that the wine receives from the layer of yeast after such a long time, um, shaping the final flavor and aroma and appearance of the wine. I mean, look at the glass. It's pale. Try to have any other wine in a cask for 5 years.
Yeah.
It will become brown, right?
Now,
So
my question actually is what happens to the yeast when you empty?
the barrels never go empty.
Right, Solera system. But there is some wines you don't use Solera for, right?
Very few, very small percentage. All the overwhelming majority of sherry will be in a Solera system, and as you can see the barrels here, you're going to be taking out some wine from each barrel, from each level. You have different levels: Solera, Criadera 1, Criadera 2, but all of them are going to be kept pretty much always filled. You take out small portions, and then you refill that that gap, that empty space with wine from the next level up.
And this is also, correct me if I'm wrong, why it's so hard for a Scotch whiskey producer or any producer nowadays. It used to be easier before, things were as they were. It's so hard to get barrels that genuinely aged sherry because they're all using the Solera system. They're very, very rarely replaced.
That's very true. That's exactly what happens. That before the wines were shipped in cask, right? Before the invention of glass and bottles.
Right. Yeah.
But today that's not the case. So if you really want a true bodega barrel, because then you can have a shipping barrel, which is containing the wine just for shipment, but a true bodega barrel that could be easily 50, 70, 90, 120 years old, you're going to have to pay a lot of money. So only very, top of the line whiskey producers have the ability to buy these true
bodega barrels.
Bodega barrels. So biological wines, finos and manzanillas, they spend, in this case, 5 years under the layer of the veil, under the effect of the yeast, the layer of yeast floor, and that's going to produce a wine that tastes, like the wine you have in your glass, which is super dry.
Yes. So
savory, a little bit nutty, but it's more on the fresh almond sort of like.
On that note, I just poured the Fino, Fino Harana. We have the Manzanilla Papirusa. Is that right? Papirusa?
Yeah.
So we have both of those side by side here. In this glass, we have the Manzanilla, and in this glass, we have the Fino. And just looking at them side by side, the Manzanilla is much more pale. It's much almost clearer, whereas the Fino is much more yellow, which just fascinates me.
We'll have to look at the bottling age dates and see if they were released really far apart, but yes, a Manzanilla usually is a little bit paler than a Fino, and maybe a little lighter on the palate, and with a lot of that ocean.
Where would I find the bottling dates?
It's gonna be, depending on the release, it's probably gonna be aged in the glass on the very bottom, foot or shoulder of the glass. But it's kind of hard to
yeah, they're also sweating, so.
Oh, that will not help. But there is a lot number where you have the, like champagne, right? You have the.
Would it be on the back of the label?
No.
QKZ
in the back label, but 3 or 4 years ago they changed it to the actual glass, to the actual bottle, and it's on the bottom edge of the bottle where the bottle sits on. They used to have the year, and then the day in that year. Let's say
Got it.
if it says 925 is the 125 day out of 2019 now.
150758.
What is that again?
L00150758.
Okay. So that wine was bottled in 2000 and at the beginning of the year in November 15.
Wow.
And can you, is that the Manzanilla or the Fino?
That's the Manzanilla.
Check the Fino. Say,
I'm checking, yeah. Again, the bottle sweat doesn't help. But it's good. It means that, they were nice and cold.
So they may be a few months apart, and that also affects the color. But yeah, you were right. The Manzanilla usually better, a little lighter, very fragrant and floral on the nose, and the Fino possibly a little more structure, a little more herbal, and with a different texture, very yeasty, very pungent. So the thing is that the wines are produced the same way, but they're aged in different locations. Remember the triangle?
Yep.
So the Manzanilla is from Sanlúcar, the Fino is from Jerez. And as you can see here, this is the analytical parameters for a Manzanilla from Sanlúcar. And down here in green, and then in orange, you have the Fino from Jerez. And the wines are very similar. I mean, they're virtually the same wine, but the different floor formations may actually affect the wine in a different way.
Yeah, I'm not finding the information on the Fino.
You're not finding that?
No.
Maybe on the back label, that would mean that it's a pretty old bottling.
L6349.
L6
349.
Oh wow, that's from 2016. No wonder the color is much darker. So basically,
the Manzanilla, you said it was from 2000?
2020.
Oh, 2020. Okay, you said 2000. I was like, what?
No. 2000 zero will be 2020 now.
Gotcha.
And the Finos from 2016.
From what I'm seeing, yeah. L.6349 on the back label, top left of the back label.
Yeah. So that's a very old bottling. And did you get it from Lustau, or you bought it somewhere else?
No. They gave it to me.
Oh my God. I mean, that's
and again,
cool.
Thank you to you and to Lustau for providing product for us to taste along with today.
No problem. That's cool, but there is a 4-year difference between one modeling and the other, and of course 4 years make
a lot can change.
Make the wines develop pretty dramatically, and one of the things that come with development is the increase of depth in color. So that's why your
this Fino is the best Fino I've ever had, though.
But it's still balanced, still good.
It's delicious. It's nutty. It's fruity. It's kind of not. It's not quite salty, but it has like a
briny, savory.
Yeah, kind of, but not quite briny. More like a little bit like salt water or like an oyster.
Yeah. So see what happens here. You see, during the
right. So for the biological wines, the alcohol goes down, the residual sugar goes down, the volatile acidity goes down, the glycerin goes down, but the ethyl aldehyde goes up, and the color doesn't change. But for the oxidative, it's the exact opposite.
Exactly.
Up, no change, and then up for the color.
Yeah. So the Amontillado, which is your wine number 3, is going to be somewhere in the middle, because the Amontillado is that perfect sherry, the best from both worlds, where you're going to have a wine that first goes through or under the biological process, and all these parameters, all these compounds are going to be affected this way. But then after certain time, which is somewhere between 4 and 6 years, the wine switches to an oxidative process or method of aging, which is without the layer of yeast, and the wine now is being affected pretty much the opposite
So
way.
this Almacenista, Mosel de Puerto, is L82551248.
2018 8, is that the first
Yeah.
number? Yeah, so that's good. For an Amontillado is fine. It won't affect the color as much. They will not develop in bottle as fast as maybe biological wines or sweet wines would. So this is one of my favorite wines out of the entire Lustau lineup.
Now, before I open this and pour it, I'm just very curious to see. I do a proper side by side between the Manzanilla and the Fino. So again, the Manzanilla is the one in my first glass, and the Fino is the one in my second glass. The Fino, just aromatically, it's like the Manzanilla, just on steroids, if you will, amped up, much more powerful, much more those nutty kind of almost sweet, savory aromas. It's beginning to get a little bit of more of the sweet flavor.
Yeah, and that's definitely something out of their. When it's in this case, it's longer bottle aging.
Yeah,
That is going to be,
which is really interesting to me.
Providing extra flavors. We're going to talk about now tertiary flavors and more developing aromas and all that. So to be completely fair to the locations in the case, what we try to do is to try an Manzanilla and a Fino that have been bottled pretty much around the same time. But now we have a 4-year difference.
Yeah.
so they're going to be very very different wines.
Whoa!
If you put them side by side. Now the Amontillado is that, right? You have a wine that still shows some Fino character.
Very much so, yeah.
Some floral, very very dry, very lean, very sharp on the palate.
Moldy almost.
But then all the extra complexity from the second half of its life, which is going to be in contact with oxygen. Because again, here we play with no oxygen exposure versus full contact with oxygen.
Wow.
The effect of the yeast that's going to be like diminishing VA and glycerin and things like that. Or rather like oxygen as evaporating water and concentrating all the aroma. So we'll see.
Is it rude, Lucas, to call this moldy, almost rancio, maybe like a rancid kind of rancio?
No, as far as we're with imbalance, the aromas can develop quite extreme.
This is very extreme. It kind of reminds me.
The thing with the wines from El Puerto, and that's what you could be picking up here, is that they really affected by the low tide and the ocean proximity.
Oh,
and
yeah.
A lot of them have these kind of almost seaweed petrol.
Yes, and this is very rocky.
Yeah.
It smells like rocks, if you know what I mean. If that makes any sense. Very rocky.
Whetstone.
Yeah.
Oyster shell.
Oh, yeah.
Seaweed. So that's where you're probably picking up there, and that's the effect of that ocean proximity and the humidity levels and the concentration.
God, I wish there was a sherry bar in LA. I could just go and drink sherry at all day.
Um, in LA, well, we used to have the bazaar, right? With some wine there, some sherries. I haven't been there for a while, but I actually opened that hotel, the SOS.
Jose Andres, they sell us?
Yeah,
No more.
it's no more, right?
It's no more.
yeah, yeah, no, I know. I think it's been a few years, right? That
Just before COVID.
Oh, okay, yeah, good for them. Um, we had some nice sherry cocktails there and a nice, short sherry selection. To go with food that is avant-garde and crazy and very very contemporary, and so again, go back to sherry can go with pretty much anything.
Oh, absolutely.
But this amontillado is certainly something very special because it's a pheno that then loses the floor, the protection from the oxygen, and then now starts to be exposed to the influence of the air, and the color darkens, as you can see, and all the aromas are evolving.
So when you say it loses the protection of the floor, what happens? You're taking it out of one criadera and putting it in a different barrel?
Well, a pheno, when starts to getting old, all the nutrients and all the strength that is coming from the younger wines, because remember the Solera system is blending in the vintage wine, the younger wines over and over again. So all the barrels are fed with nutrients and alcohol and all that good stuff that the floor needs to survive. As the Solera system grows older, all that starts to fade away or slow down. And if a Solera becomes a Fino Solera or Manzanilla Solera becomes very old, the last levels will start losing the veil. We'll start seeing that layer phase away, and then oxygen starts to come through. So if you had a very old Solera of Fino or Manzanilla, that will naturally evolve into an amontillado, because the wines are going to start losing that protection, and the color darkens, the aromas become more spicy, toasty, smoky, oaky, and the profile starts to change. But a good amontillado, like the one you have in glass number 3, needs to remind you of that kind of Fino and Manzanilla origin, with the addition of the extra oxygen, second half of its aging life. And in this case, aged in El Puerto with tremendous influence from the ocean and all that seaweed and petrol and crazy stuff added to it. But this is one of those wines that have tremendous balance, and this is a wine that can go with a lot of different ingredients and foods, because we combine both. We combine the oloroso complexity and an oxidative character with all the mouthfeel that you find out of Finos and Manzanilla. So amontillados usually cover a lot of ground as far as culinary applications, or even cocktails.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me a moment while I just savor this.
Yeah, mushrooms, cheese, some mature cheeses, even vegetables like asparagus or artichokes, pepperoni pizza.
Don't tempt me.
No, listen, American food, some chicken with spices and herbs, even funky oysters or certain fish, like tuna. So a lot of applications, but definitely a wine that makes you eat more. That's the ultimate thing about wine, right? That it's a vehicle so you can enjoy your food, and I think Jerez just nails that with all the styles and all the applications. And now with the Amontillado probably are on course number 3 or 4. So
We're still on 3. So before we move on, though,
no,
we've
5
talked.
course a meal. Maybe we're like in
Oh,
between.
gotcha,
Huh?
gotcha. On course, gotcha. Yeah, no, I could see this with course 3. Like the bread, then the appetizer,
Yeah,
then like the entree, and then like the Pedro Jimenez with like an ice cream.
sure.
Before we move on to the next wine, talking about appellation of origin, and the CRJ, the Consejero de Jerez, and how sherry has to be made in the Sherry Triangle, not just from Jerez, but in the region of Sherry,
Mm-hmm.
Jerez de la Frontera. And I don't remember the others. I can only ever remember Jerez de la Frontera.
Then Sanlúcar and El Puerto.
Just San Lucar and Puerto. Thank you. What is California sherry, and how is that legal?
Yeah. Well, it's an issue that has been going on for a long time, and not only with sherry, but with champagne or Burgundy or many other Chianti, other appellations, right? They started to produce wine that was meant to taste like the classic European appellations, and sherry was one of them. So it's hard legally to kind of like get rid of that. So as long as they've been producing those wines for a long time out of California, they're still under American law able to bottle those wines. But obviously, no need to say that has nothing to do with sherry, and they try and try hard, I guess. The problem with Jerez is that you can find such a diversity of profiles and styles coming out of the authentic region that if you are to fake sherry, you could go many different ways and still think that you're producing something similar to what the region puts out. Most of these Californian sherries are very inexpensive, big format bottles of dry wines. I guess more meant for cooking. At least that's, I think, what people use them for. But that's a shame, actually. It's just jeopardizing the actual original wine, and they certainly don't help for the public to understand that they're not tasting the
Actual
true
sherry, right?
the true stuff. And the Consejo is trying very hard to stop that, but it's not something that is going to happen overnight. And the U.S. is now the only country in the world that's still producing those unreal fake European wines, among them California sherry. But I'm not here to say you should not buy those. What I'm saying is that once you try the authentic Jerez, and in this case, you're gonna have to try a lot of different wines because sherry produces a lot of different
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Once you get sherry down and you understand the region, that Californian stuff, it's gonna be off the table right a second, because
I mean,
there's no
I
comparison.
know it. I just drink this. I'm very happy with this.
No, but you see those, Magnum.
Yeah, I saw them at the supermarket, and I'm like, "What is this?
And
You
what are
can't
they?
make sherry in California."
For $4, $3. Yeah, that hopefully one day we'll not see those any longer. But we have to say to the audience today that if you want to try the authentic stuff, look for sherry that has the the back
The
label
mark, yeah, the
seal or mark
stamp of the Consejo de Jerez.
that is
Or I saw also
applicable.
the Consejo de Manzanilla.
And correct, and it should say produced in Spain or made in Spain.
Yeah.
Because that's gonna tell you that that's the wine from the real
As we were talking about Alvear, well, like you said, it's not actually sherry. It's very similarly produced, but it's not from the region, so it's not sherry. It's from a neighboring region, neighboring, appellation.
Yeah, but that's a theme, if I may say, that's more acceptable than anything from California. So I'd rather have you enjoy a Pedro Ximenez from Montilla, in this case the Alvear, than a fake wine from Monterey or Central Coast or Central Valley, California, which is not going to be any close to the real stuff.
Not even.
No, but Montilla, it's interesting. Montilla is it's another historic region. They've been producing wines like sherry in a very similar fashion and with very similar results. But Montilla uses Pedro Ximenez for all the styles, whereas Jerez is more Palomino. So that also brings some different characteristics. So the Oloroso, huh?
The Oloroso Don Numio.
Yeah. So back to the production method. Now we fortify. Once we obtain the dry wines completely fortified, we're gonna completely fermented. We're gonna add alcohol all the way to 17%. Remember, we had the two options here.
This is a 2020 as well, I believe. Bottled the 16th day of August.
Yeah, it's a late bottling, late release. So going back here, we get the wine fully fermented.
The mosto. Then you add the fortification, right?
And then for finos, we were bumping that alcohol up to 15%. Here with Olorosos, we're gonna go a little bit farther up, somewhere around 17%. So what happens here is that this is now too much alcohol for the floor to leave. Or
this is a 20%.
This is 20 because it's 12 years, so everything concentrates. But it was originally at 17%.
Wow.
So remember, alcohol increases.
Yeah.
Residual sugar increases very slowly. Volatile acidity, of course, because we're fully exposed to the oxygen. Glycerin, we not only keep the natural levels of glycerin, but we see those going up by concentration. No acetaldehyde because there is no effect of floor yeast, and the color obviously is affected as well with
right. It's very brown, very nutty.
Right. Usually, the older the wine, the darker it becomes. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what an oloroso is. A wine that is very
more light. There we go.
very distinguished, or very, very different again from a fino manzanilla, because they're opposite within the dry spectrum of Jerez. They're opposite aging methods. One is protected from the oxygen and affected by the floor yeast. The other one is with no floor and with direct exposure to the air. So
yes.
If you take glass number 1 and glass number 4, it's not as crazy separation as you may find between a fino and a Pedro Ximenez, but Oloroso is a different animal here.
You know what, Lucas? If you'll excuse me for a moment, I just remembered I have 1 or 2 bottles of sherry from. It might be Lustau, it could be a different producer. I'm just gonna go check if they're in my fridge. I'm quite curious to see what I have, because I just remembered I have bottles of something. I don't remember what it is, so I want to go check it real quick. If you don't mind excusing me for a moment.
No, no, go get them.
So I just found them. I have a Fino and Rama from Gonzalo's Beas, Tio Pepe, and then a Don Gonzalo Oloroso Vos Jerez.
What year is the Fino Rama?
The Fino and Rama,
It should have a date on the front label.
2018.
2018. Yeah. So that was bottled in 2018. Because,
Yes.
That's it's like the release year. Huh? It's not the vintage, because these wines are criadera, solera system and criadera blended, but that wine was bottled in 2018. So now you have a wine that has been in bottle for about 3 years.
And I have a 20-year Oloroso here, actually.
A VOS?
A VOS, yeah.
Yeah. By
Obviously,
who?
we don't by Don Gonzalo.
Is it González Villas too?
No, it's a Jose Estevez.
Ah, Estevez. Yeah. Yeah, those are good wineries. So,
But we're talking about Lustau, so we'll leave those off to the side.
yeah, no. The Enrama, it's good that you mentioned that the Enrama wines are very trendy these days, and Lustau has a fabulous release of 3 wines out of the 3 cities in a combo pack that are Enrama. And Enrama basically means that there's been little intervention, no filtration.
So my go-to shop for things like this is K&L Wines here in California.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
have the 3 Enrama Spring 2020 bottling.
Yeah,
the Manzanilla, or that's the Fino Rama. They have a Manzanilla and Rama, and then Fino Rama El Puerto de Santa Maria.
correct. They are usually sold in a combo pack of 3, so you can taste the 3 cities.
Actually, they're sold individually.
That's fine too. But they could come in a 3-bottle pack with the three different locations from the same year, bottled in the same year, and that's a great exercise, because an Enrama wine will be truly showing more intensity, more enhanced flavors. They're usually a little deeper in color because there's no carbon filtration or any heavy filtration, and they're truly delicious. The idea is that you're tasting something close to Veneziano. When you Venezias, you sample the wine directly out of the cask. The Enramas are truly very special Jerezes, usually very low, limited volumes, amounts of bottles.
Would you mind if we tasted the Sun?
No, that's fine.
Let's see, the Fino was our second one. So let's just enjoy one more sip of this. And then we'll swap out the Manzanilla and get the same Fino, so we can try the Fino Harana versus the Fino Rama together.
And they were bottled.
The Fino Rama is
no, this is 18, and the Harana was 16, huh?
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah.
This is from Bodegas Tio Pepe, Gonzalo's BS.
Yeah.
It's been open for a month or 2 in the fridge.
You had it open for a month or 2. So that will also affect the wines.
Yes. They're both open, but I've been enjoying them.
Yeah. So
And then this
Um,
is bottled. When was this one bottled? It's a 20-year, 20 años y calidad excepcional. Mm,
yeah, I don't know where they put their
I
lot number
will.
on, but it won't matter too
It
much.
might be nombre 664567 on the bottom
Yeah, I'm not
under
sure.
vinum optimum signatum.
Yeah, but let me tell you, a wine that's a Amontillado. Is it an Amontillado?
No, oloroso.
Oloroso. A wine like that, after 20 years in cask, and with the profile of an old Oloroso like that, um, if they were bottled early, let's say years ago, it won't affect the evolution in the bottle of the wine is going to be much more like slowly, um, compared to other styles of sherry. So even if the wines are early
So
bottle, have been in
just
bottle for.
comparing the olorosos here for a moment. The one that I'm holding up to the camera right now is the Don Gonzalo Oloroso.
Hmm.
At 20 years, obviously, it's much darker, as one would expect,
Yeah, yeah. The
versus
concentration
the
here is
Bodegas Lustau, which is
exactly,
much
exactly.
lighter. But again, that even when it comes to sherry wine, I'm sure color doesn't mean much.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you could have 25
Mm.
glasses of sherry in front of you, and
Oh wow,
they'll look mm, nothing nothing similar to the one next to them.
that is very nutty.
I'm sure. Yeah, the concentration is massive here. So 20 years in cask makes a wine ultra sharp and intense and a lot of power. So you just need a few drops, and that's the other thing. We can say that you don't need to drink as much. Maybe that's why people maybe don't finish those bottles. But um,
Oh
if
no,
you're if
I'm
you're
gonna finish these
look
bottles.
if you're to drink a table of four, and you're to enjoy a bottle of Oloroso with your main course, you may need say 150 mLs.
Yeah.
Although with a wine with such intensity, very little goes a long way.
Oh wow. So the Fino and Rama, it's like a flower shop.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah,
know what I mean by that, it's very light and airy and floral. It's watery almost. It smells like fresh cut flowers.
yeah, a little like maybe a little hail, like hay. Sorry, a little hay,
Mm.
like cut grass, because the yeastiness then becomes more.
Not cut grass, cut flowers. If you go into a flower shop, if you go to
Mhm.
buy like flowers, it smells like that to me.
And you've had it open for almost 2 months.
2, 3 months, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That probably will. If you opened a fresh bottle now, it would definitely taste. Something
Now
else.
that actually brings me to a very interesting topic, something that gets talked about a lot in terms of whiskey. But with wine, it doesn't get talked about as often because usually people think of wine, they think of regular wine. They don't think of sherry wine or fortified wine. Let's talk about how long the wines are quote unquote good for.
Um, once you open the bottle, or
Once
with
you open the bottle, once you close the bottle,
because
doesn't matter.
with the seal bottle, if we don't open the bottles, I would say it's the same as any other wine region in the world.
It'll age and it'll get better over time.
Some of them would, some of them will, some of them will not.
Sure.
You have some Pinot Grigios that from top vineyard sites in Alsace that can be aged in bottle for a long time. Pinot Gris in this case, or you have some Pinot Grigios out of Veneto that won't stand a summer. Same with Jerez. You may get some bottles of top quality sherries that are going to be nicely developing in bottle for decades.
Now we have a comment here, actually, Lucas, from Nurse Dave's Shaving World. They said they won't even drink wine the next day after they open it. Does that mean you finish the bottle that night, or if you open it, you don't finish it, you just pour it out? What are you doing in that case?
I always try to approach it the same way. I always recommend to finish a 750 ml bottle. As long as you have a nice group of people and you're kind of like enjoying that wine with certain courses or dishes, why not just finish it? Now, if you want to keep a half empty bottle of Oloroso in your fridge for a week or two, I have nothing against that either. But I don't think the wines are going to be improving necessarily down the road if you just have unfinished bottles of sherry all around the house.
So I've been guilty of that actually a few times. They said they pour out the leftovers.
Would you do that with Russian River Pinot Noir?
I don't drink any wine other than sherry, actually, so I'm the wrong person to ask.
Okay.
Sherry is literally the only wine I drink.
The thing is that since some of these sherry styles have been readily oxidated, in a controlled manner, those wines hold oxygen a little bit better than others. So yeah, it's true that maybe a Russian River Pinot Noir will go bad after 2 or 3 days, and an Oloroso could be still tasting really balanced and beautiful after a few weeks in your fridge. But I don't see the point why you should not finish the bottles. So that's my approach.
So Nurse Dave said they'll use a Coravin if they just want one glass. Otherwise, they pour out leftovers.
The thing with Jerez, a lot of those wines are bottled on tea stoppers with the plastic top, and it's hard to use Coravin on those. But there is a little trick, and if you get a drill, a handheld. Maybe no, you drill a little hole through the plastic top, and then you reach the cork, and then you can very carefully you can just nail that Coravin through the cork, and then use it normally, and then you can store that bottle of sherry for a few weeks.
Interesting idea.
Yeah, the corks in sherry are not usually like those
thick,
burgundy style corks that are long and thick. So Coravin is not as reliable probably, but that's a little trick that you can use if you don't want to open a bottle of Jerez and still use Coravin on it. I've done it a number of times, and it's fun and pretty efficient. But yeah, I mean, try to stay away from that idea that sherry is a wine that I can open anytime and keep in my cellar for forever. I would try to change that mindset. I would say sherry is a wine that I choose when to enjoy, and I also have a lot of options in half bottles, but I have a few options out of magnums. Maybe you want to down a full magnum bottle with 8 friends because you have the perfect dish to enjoy with that wine.
Oh, absolutely. I know that for personally, after we finish up tonight, I'm going to be enjoying some beautiful Fino. I always forget it. Fino Harana with my dinner, and then later when I'm being a nerd and playing video games, and we'll be drinking some of this Don Gonzalo Oloroso.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe you'll need more sherry at 3 a.m. and you'll be out of it. So
That's a good problem to have.
well, you should have bought more.
I mean, you're going to turn me into a sherry nerd, and I'm not mad about that.
No, what I'm trying to say is that a lot of people think that, and I said that little sherry goes long way, but a lot of people think, oh, I have a bottle of sherry and it's a 750, and I'm gonna hold on to it for 3 or 6 months, even if I open it and try little by little. Why would you do that?
It's definitely going to change. People treat sherry more like a hard alcohol than they do a regular wine.
Which is not true. I mean, vermouth is the same. A bottle of vermouth, if you want to keep it fresh, don't let it sit on your back bar for weeks on end.
Well, first of all, vermouth belongs in the fridge. Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
Vermouth does not go on your back bar. If I walk into your bar and see vermouth in your back bar, I'm turning around and leaving.
Yeah, but Sam, it's still in your fridge. It's gonna go bad in a few weeks.
You're absolutely right.
So
you're absolutely right. I'm just saying that in terms of vermouth, please don't leave it on your back bar.
No, don't do that.
Oops, I just lowered my chair by accident, trying to stop myself from
reclining. A lot of bars keep their sherries on the back bar, and that's also wrong.
Oh no! Sherry does not belong on the back bar. If you open it, put it in the fridge right away.
Yeah, that will help make sure the wine, holds some days. But don't just believe that these wines are going to be improving once they are open, just because you don't want to. You're lazy about finishing the bottle. If you don't do that,
I will say
with other wines, don't do
between the two bottles, I do prefer the Lustau Fino to the Tio Pepe Fino and Rama. They're both delicious, but for me, the Tio Pepe Fino and Rama is more fresh, more herbaceous, more herbal. That would maybe want to use more in a cocktail, and I would want to drink straight for myself.
The applications are endless.
Oh yeah, it's just like anything else. You can mix it. People look at me and they're like, "What do you?" People knowing my background, I'm a very heavily whiskey drinker, and obviously, I have a book out on whiskey. So if you guys are interested in learning more about whiskey, let me put up a banner for that. Go ahead and purchase a signed copy of my book at the Beginner's Guide to Whiskey.com. All copies come signed by me, and I talk about that whole, what's the word I'm looking for? That whole quote unquote issue of, well, can I mix with a good spirit? Well, yeah. Do you want a really nice cocktail? If so, you want a really nice cocktail, why not use really nice spirits? John McIlwain just joined real quick. He said he joined late, never had a sherry, which is a good one to start with. And also, which type of cask is used in the Redbreast Lustau? He wants to try the sherry and the whiskey. John, it's a great question. You were actually talking about the Redbreast Lustau a little bit earlier. And since you missed that, basically what we were talking about is how Redbreast is one of the only distilleries that I know of to brand name what sherry they're using, and also to use bodega casks. Right, Lucas?
Yeah.
And now bodega casks, John, sorry, Lucas, if I can, I want to get this out if I can. I want to see if I'm right. There's a difference we talk about all the time between sherry casks, sherry seasoning casks, and sherry shipping casks. Sherry casks being what I think of when I think of sherry casks is a bodega cask, which is a cask that was used to actually age and mature sherry, versus a shipping cask, which is a cask used to ship the sherry if you ship it in cask, versus a seasoning cask, which is still a sherry barrel. They're all still sherry barrels, but it's a matter of, how deeply that sherry is penetrated into the wood, right?
Correct. And I guess you can still get some good results out of I don't know, a 3-year sherry cask, but definitely the value of a true bodega cask that has been containing wine for maybe more than 50 years or even 100 years, that there is no comparison. So today it's very difficult for these distillers to get true bodega cask because they're very expensive and they're not gonna get rid of as easily, because, as you know, the tendency is to repair the barrels over and over again so you can keep using them, because the more seasoned, the older the wood, the more neutral in this case, the better for the finest wines. So if you're a whiskey producer and you want a true sherry cask, you're gonna have to pay a lot of money for it. Now the other question is, which is a good style of sherry to start with, no? Or to start you off? That's a question that I've been asked a lot, and it's very interesting to me, and I've done this exercise a number of times. Maybe Sam, you can tell me, between a manzanilla and an oloroso or a Pedro Ximénez, just to name three major categories. Let's say between a manzanilla and an oloroso, just to keep it on the dry side. You're a whiskey drinker. Maybe for you, an oloroso is easier to drink than
You read my mind.
a manzanilla that seems like something completely different, out of this world. But you would usually enjoy a manzanilla first, and then an amontillado, and possibly an oloroso towards the end. So this tells you that the structure of the body, the complexity, the power in an oloroso is greater than in a manzanilla usually. So if you are to start, you may want to start light, and that tells you that perhaps the manzanilla is a better option. But a lot of American palates are more used to a manzanilla is a better option, but a lot of American palates are more used to the oloroso profile, which is oaky, vanilla-ish, nutty, because it reminds them maybe some whiskey they had, some.
As a whiskey drinker, Lucas, I would actually disagree with you. I would start with the Oloroso.
Right.
It's a good mix between the Manzanilla and the Fino and the, Amontillado and Pedro Jimenez styles. It's more of an in-between.
Usually, Sam...
or no, sorry, I'm thinking of... What am I talking about? I'm thinking of the Amontillado.
Well, Amontillado is kind of like between a Fino and an Oloroso, but usually when you're trying to do baby steps into a new wine region, usually the sweeter wines are easier to everyone, more palatable, easy to deal with, maybe on the stand.
Hang on, what did I do? There we go.
But what I'm trying to say is that if you ask me right away, I would think, you start with a manzanilla or fino to get yourself into the region, to get familiar with the sherry wines, and then you progress, and after a few weeks you start with your amontillados and then olorosos and the oxidative, very robust profiles. But the reality is that I think that a good number of Americans, they find the oloroso right off the bat easier to enjoy than the more strange finos and manzanillas that are like more white wines, but don't taste like any other white wine I have tasted.
Right, they're more briny, more,
exactly, and the yeastiness and all that pungent thing. So to a lot of Americans, the more olorosos, oxidative styles could be easier to enjoy as the entry level into the region than a lighter manzanilla. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. Because I still would say, definitely try the Manzanilla and the Fino because it might turn out that you like the less oaky, more white wine, almost kind of like Chardonnay aspects of the lighter wines. But I agree, definitely the American palate is, and especially the whiskey drinker's palate, is more gravitated towards something like the Oloroso.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a good question. I mean, which is a good one to start out of all the diversity that we find coming out of the region? I don't know. Some people prefer a sweeter, like off dry wine. Some people would think that the Oloroso is too much. Some people would think that the Manzanilla or Finos are like too weird, and they need a little bit more time to get a hold of them. So
John, my recommendation is buy a small bottle, like if you can find like I don't know, Lucas, what's the smallest bottle that Lustau makes?
375 usually.
So if you can find a 375 of a beautiful Lustau Amontillado and a Lustau Fino, I would buy them both
Yeah.
and open up the Fino first.
Mm-hmm.
After chilling it, by the way, make sure your sherry is chilled out of the fridge how you best want it enjoyed.
Yeah.
Try that if you have a partner. Try it with that partner or a friend. Try it with them, split between you guys, and really just take the time to appreciate and analyze it like you would a whiskey. And then either the next day or a couple days later, try the Amontillado. Don't be turned off by the Fino if it seems weird or bizarre to you. Embrace that, and then try the Amontillado, the Oloroso. That'll probably be more akin to what you're thinking of when you think of, what you want for a sherry. Now, Lucas, his last other question, which is a great one, was what cask type is used in the Redbreast Lustau release?
I believe Oloroso cask. Usually, I'm not sure now. I think Oloroso or Amontillado, but for brandy, it's very common to use either Olorosos or Pedro Ximénez because the spirit needs a more seasoned, more flavorful type of wood of barrel to pick up all those flavors. There's some very
Oloroso. I just looked it up.
There are some fine spirits that can and I can tell you this little personal story. We did mezcal with Ron Cooper.
Wow.
We did the maguey. I'm talking about back in 2010, so more than a decade ago. We did an experiment.
I was 18.
With a cask of manzanilla shipped all the way from Sanlúcar to Oaxaca, and we put mezcal, one of the top. I'm not sure if it was the Tobalanos. I don't remember the village or the actual variety, but it was one of Ron Cooper's top mezcals in a manzanilla cask.
Oh wow!
And we did 3 different levels. I think we did 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. And then we bottled those mezcals in magnums, and we drank them. We never sold those. And that's probably one of the top 3 spirits I've had in my life. So the very subtle, very delicate top mezcal was really enriched in a fine way by the manzanilla cask. But usually,
what agave it was?
Usually, yes, it could have been the Tobala, but I don't remember.
Most likely Tobala. Could have been an Espadin. I mean,
Oh,
very common.
Very, very, very subtle. But all other spirits like rich brandies or whiskeys, they benefit better from a more like Oloroso or Pedro Ximénez cask to run off like their strength and all the the potent character of the long aging. So depending on the spirit, Again, going tying in with the diversity of styles that you find coming out of the region, you could prefer like more a fino biological, manzanilla cask, um, over a more sweeter, darker Pedro Ximénez cask, or somewhere in between would be an oloroso. So that same array of opportunities you have when drinking wines out of bottles in Jerez, that same thing is with when you decide to age wines or spirits, sorry, in this case, in different woods. So for whiskey, usually oloroso OPX are more common, but I've tried
John is
beautiful
saying,
agave in manzanilla cask that was phenomenal.
on that note, real quick, John is saying that he's very much looking forward to the journey. Sounds like he's got a couple of types of sherry to try.
Oh no, a couple no,
And
he's
he
got like
says,
8 or
I told, yeah, 8 or 10. I told him to buy both the Fino and the Oloroso. He says both it is. Didn't know to chill it.
yeah, and then temperature, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another very important, crucial aspect when serving these wines. And going back to the diversity, maybe a fino manzanilla tastes better, depending on the quality, the style, and probably the dish you're going to enjoy them with. But somewhere between 45 and 55. But an oloroso or Pedro Ximénez, a lot of people, they just keep them out of the fridge, on back bars and things like that. You don't want to drink a warm sherry. So olorosos and the sweeter styles, I would keep them always chilled, and somewhere around between 55 and 60. If it's a very old sherry, maybe a little bit closer to 60, but don't and never go. I mean, never go higher than 65 or 70 degrees, like you wouldn't with any other red wine. So maybe finos and manzanillas more like white wines as far as temperature. Olorosos more like red wines, and maybe some of the sweeter styles in between, around 50, 55, but always chilled. And that's a rule with any wine in the world. I mean, you want to, if you keep the wine out of the fridge, maybe before you open the bottle, just put it in the fridge for 30, 45 minutes, particularly in the summertime, and make sure they're at least slightly chilled. That would be my recommendation. And then a nice glass where they can warm up a little bit and express themselves, and you'll enjoy a balanced wine. But
For instance, I'm using just a wine goblet today.
make sure that
My usual Glencairn.
they're not warm. That would be my ultimate advice. Don't drink any warm sherry. Don't drink any warm wine. Not too cold either. If you don't put them in the fridge for 2 hours. I mean, wine that is too cold doesn't taste like anything. So,
I mean, I left the Lustaus in the fridge overnight, actually.
That's great.
And then took them out and drove about 45 minutes with them in my car, and they warmed up a little bit.
Yeah. So they're
versus
probably
the Don Gonzalo and the Tio Pepe, which I took right out of the fridge.
And they're probably too cold.
They're warming up now, but yeah, they're still very, very cold.
Yeah. So probably the sweet spot is somewhere around 55. But we have such a array of possibilities that we can go from 45 to 65 probably. So
now we've talked about the CSWS course a little bit earlier on in the episode today, but can you talk to us a little bit more about it? The Certified Sherry Wine Specialist. How can people get on board with this? Is it only for the industry? Can consumers attend this course and take it?
Everybody. The thing is that during the pandemic, we launched an online version along with the Wine Scholar Guild, and we're offering 30 spots every month. We're actually sold out through December now. But
Yeah, it's amazing.
yeah, it's we're really excited, really happy with the response. But we're gonna be releasing on a monthly basis, so keep an eye out for announcements. Just letting you know that we're gonna be opening up a new class that will probably happen in 2 or 3 weeks, and that will be, I think, this December is the next one, or January, I think December. So that's one possibility. Do it online from your home. It's a two day program. It's actually a Monday and a Friday within the same week, and it's basically 2 hours each. So 2 hours for theory the first Monday, and then 2 hours for exam. So tasting and exam the following Friday, and then you can get your certification that way. Or we're gonna resume in-person classes hopefully very soon, this fall. And in California, if that's where you guys are, most of you based, we have 3 schools. We have San Francisco Wine School, Napa Valley Wine Academy, and then close to you, Sam, we have the Neptune School of Wines.
I mean, Neptune's isn't close. It's, the next county over, but it's close enough.
Orange County, right? Compared to
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles County.
Yeah, it's 45 minutes. You know that. So
yeah, would love to see you do something with the wine house though up here.
Yes, yeah, no, we know Monica, and yeah, that's another possibility for sure.
And then obviously, when the pandemic is over, I look forward to attending the advanced course personally.
And that will be something we'll be very proud of, if we get to pull it off, once we get back to more normal environment. Yeah, the advanced, we'll probably change the name to the CSWS experience or something, because it's going to be a true all day, different workshops, different approaches, different teachers, speakers, different themes, topics. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff. So we're looking forward to being able to offer that CSWS experience in the future, maybe twice a year, which is the original plan, but an entire day. So you sign up for maybe 6-7 hours of truly, through shared enjoyment, touching upon everything related to enjoying learning more, like deeply learning more about the region, and then actually enjoying the wines, which is what we want to do. I mean, we now know about, because it's going to be for CSWS graduates only, so you need to pass your CSWS first, and then you can have access to the experience, or to the what it used to be called,
right,
the advanced. So you already know about the region, how the wines are made. Now let's really get the best out of them.
So in the comments, they're asking for the website to sign up and take the CSWS.
Online, to take it online?
Yeah, they're asking where to take it online right now.
So go to Wine Scholar Guild, and then there's a drop down there where it says programs, and you'll see Certified Sherry Wine Specialist, and then click on there, and then try to find a session that is available. But I'm afraid they're all sold out so far. Or I mean, up to this point, whatever we have available, it's all like no more slots available. But we're gonna be releasing the next month in a couple of weeks. So there are 30 spots. if you stay tuned and well informed, maybe you want to sign up for the newsletter or follow the Wine Scholar Guild or Lustau in social media. And then as soon as we release the next class for the CSWS online, you'll be notified, and then you can sign up. The something else I need to say is that the CSWS online requires the purchasing of a mixed case
Of wines on your own, right?
6 bottles that cost $80, and you get 6 half bottles, 375. Remember we talking about that?
Right. Yeah.
So you're gonna get a mixed case with 6 bottles of true sherry, 6 different styles that you're gonna need for session number 2 out of the program. So for that Friday, we start on Monday, and then the Friday we're going to be doing the tasting and then the exam. And the exam requires having the 6 glasses of wine poured in front of you. But you're going to end up with some leftovers and be able to enjoy beautiful Jerez over that weekend or the following week, right?
Now,
So
when will it be available outside of the U.S.? Because currently it's a USA only program. Yes.
what we tell people, because we have requests from all over the world, if they're able to get the 6 bottles, to buy them or to acquire them some way, and they can prove they got the bottles, like send us a bill or a receipt or a photo, they're going to be allowed to enroll the program with the Wine Scholar Guild.
I like that.
So that's our policy right now. We don't want to say no to anybody, but we
need them to have the wine to be able to understand.
We ask them, we enforce the idea that they need to have the wines, because otherwise you're not going to pass the test. The test has a question that is compulsory, and you have to complete it, which is a tasting assessment you need to do over some of the wines. And if you don't have them, you're not going to pass. So we don't want you to fail. That's why if you are in Australia, and we've had people from Australia and signing up for the course, if you are able to find the bottles, you're welcome to join us. But you should somewhat be able to demonstrate, to prove that you got those bottles. So we know that you are in good shape for passing this test.
Beautiful. No, I like that a lot. It's always important to have the product that you're talking about and tasting right in front of you, especially if you're learning it. For someone like yourself, Lucas, you said you don't have the wines with you today, but these wines so well, you can talk about them like the back of your hand, like you have them right in front of you.
Yeah, we think that a lot of these programs don't require. I mean, they have these suggested tasting wines, and that's fine. I mean, the WCT or the Wine Scholar Guild, they do that, and we understand that completely. But we all agreed that and with the Wine Scholar Guild, and it's been like that since we launched the program back in 2017, that in the case of Jerez, the complexity of the wines, the fact that you don't taste them as often because sadly you don't find them in restaurants as much or out of your favorite wine stores, we really had to enforce the idea that people need to taste the wines during the course. And that's been the case with the in-person classes. We always had samples out of the wine schools or maybe the distributors where we were organizing these events, and we wanted to keep it the same way. Even if we're offering an online version, you need to taste the wines. You need to.
Now, if someone wants to order the wines, have their local store order the wines for them, Who's your distributor in America?
Right. So if you want to buy this 6-pack, even if you don't enroll the program, you can do it. If you go back to the winescholarguild.com website and you click on that certified sherry wine specialist course, you'll see that the landing page there, toward the bottom of the page, you'll find you can purchase the 6-bottle case here, and there are 2 links. One is for the West Coast, or more, thinking of people living on that side of the country, and that's with red crunchy fruit. I think they're out of Oregon, and so they can ship down to California in a couple of days. And the other one is with Zaki's out of New York. So if you would just want to buy the 6 bottles of wine to start getting familiar with sherry, you can do that like right now, and you can order from these 2 retailers, and then if you are in the West Coast, I would recommend red crunchy fruit, especially now that it's hot outside. You don't want wine traveling across the U.S. to get to your home. But you can buy them anytime and just enjoy them. And then when you feel ready, you can enroll the CSWS program and get your certification.
Beautiful. Lucas, we're just about out of time, so I wanted to first thank you so much for spending your evening with me. I know I hear your child in the background. I'm sure they're craving your father's attention.
You hear them? Yes.
A little bit. I'm sure they're craving your attention right now. Yeah. So I want to greatly thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk through 4 beautiful expressions from Lustau. Obviously, there's only 3 right there. I took the Oloroso down to pour myself some more because it's that good. And then also talking about 2 competitor brands as well, which is something I don't normally do on the channel. Sherry is an underappreciated category. It's something that I've fallen in love with over the last few years, and I was really excited. I'm like, what can I do that's out of the box? I'm like, oh, let's invite Bodegas Lustau onto the show to talk about sherry. Because like I said, many people have had sherry casked whiskey, but not as many people have had actual sherry. And, I feel like if you try sherry and then go back and try a sherry casked whiskey, you will find that you will find more of the nuances in the whiskey now that you actually know what the sherry itself tastes like.
Yeah,
you would identify more notes.
That spirit probably, and pick up more the character of the wood coming through the whiskey of the spirit. Yeah, it's another way to entry, to get into the region, maybe enjoying a spirit that has been finished in sherry cask, and then you take it from there. But I would encourage people to try the wines sometime, and I would encourage them to try them with food, because these
what
are
is your favorite pairing?
Many, endless. But I'm gonna give you one. Japanese pork ramen.
Ooh.
And oloroso or palo cortado.
Chashu ramen and oloroso. Oh.
Yeah, pork ramen.
What have you done?
Yeah, listen, let me know. Try it. You
Promise.
Just this much, a little bit chilled, because the soup is pretty warm, right? Hot. So a little contrast there, not too cold, but a little chilled, and just sip on it. I mean, you will be able to eat twice as much noodles than you would with a beer.
Wow.
You don't want beer with a bowl of noodles.
No, you don't need to be bloated.
Exactly. So sherry is the way.
Lucas, thank you so much. And the last question is, where can people find you and reach out to you if they have questions?
Maybe Instagram or my email.
Yeah, what's your Instagram?
Instagram is at Lucas Paya, Lucaspaya, or you just shoot me an email, lucas@lucaspaya.com.
Easy, Lucas.
Or
Yes.
visit our blog, sherryjourney.com, where we post all sort of sherry stuff. And there you can also there are different ways to get in touch, different contact forms. So that's another means to reach us. So Instagram, Sherry Journey, my email. I'm here, just a click away.
Well, Lucas,
All
thank you
right.
for joining us. Will you lead us in a toast?
Have a good night.
Lead us in a toast.
Oh yeah, toast.
Lead us. You talk. You toast.
Okay, so please, people, make sure that when you enjoy your wines, you don't drink too much, but make sure you drink enough variety, so you know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, cheers, Lucas. Cheers.
Good night.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye.